listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Today our guest is Rick Dees, author of Pecker Tracks. Rick is a teacher, a longtime reader, and a first-time novelist. Welcome, Rick. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. I sure appreciate it.
Well, thank you for joining us. So, Rick, I see that your title is unusual, but I also see that you grew up in Fort Peck, Montana. Can you tell us a little bit about your title?
It's a small town in northeast Montana, and that's where I did grow up, and that's where the book is set. And when I first started writing this book in 2003, my mentor on this project was my English teacher in high school, and we had gone back and forth, and I was kind of throwing out some ideas out there for titles. And they were pretty stupid titles, like The Misadventures of a Small Town Boy. And he suggested Pecker Tracks, and I was like, well, yeah, that kind of has a ring to it, and it seems to make sense. And so that's kind of how it came about.
Okay.
So Rick, you're a teacher. Do you teach literature or English or writing?
No, I teach high school science, actually, chemistry and physics and earth science. And so there's a little bit of that in the book. I think you'll see if you read it.
We will.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what got you motivated to write a book?
You know, I've always wanted to write, and I started writing when I was probably about 15. I wrote a book. Well, not a book. I wrote about 4 or 5 chapters. And the stuff I read back then was kind of like Stephen King stuff. So it was kind of a scary type of story. And, and that's about as far as that went. And then I think in about 2003, I started working on this, and I just started putting together a couple chapters here and there, a couple funny stories that really didn't have much to do with each other. And that mentor friend of mine I was telling you about, he, after about 2 or 3 years working on it, he said, I thought, okay, I'm all done. I had about 800 pages written, and he said, okay, now you're halfway there. And I'm like, wait, what are you talking? I thought, what are you talking about? I'm halfway. And he said, now you got to go back and cut out everything and try and draw it all together and make it follow a central storyline. And that was kind of tough to hear because, you put hours and hours in writing.
Sure.
And someone tells you got to cut some stuff out of your story. And it kind of was like the last thing I wanted to hear at the time. And so I kind of put it away for several years. And, I'd go back and work on a little bit here and there. But I also knew how tough it was to get published back then. This was 10 or 12 years ago. And, it's changed quite a bit now with self-publishing and everything.
Sure.
And so in 2015, I kind of picked it back up, and I thought, okay, I'm going to either, I got to do this or I'm not going to do this. And so I started writing again, and I started working with a couple of editors down in Reno. That happened to be, one of them happened to be the niece of this girl that I worked with. And she said, here, my niece is an editor. She put me in touch with her, and I said, okay, let's see where this goes. And so I worked with them for maybe from about July of 2015 to about January. They went through and edited the book. And then at that point, I started to send out query letters to agents. And I don't know if you guys are very familiar with that process, but it's pretty slow. And I think I sent about 8 or 10 query letters out in January. And I think I heard back from about 4 of the agents.
Wow,
and
that's pretty good from what we've heard. Some people say, they don't hear anything. So
Well, that's the thing. And that was 4 rejections. And I was actually pretty excited the first time I got a rejection because I thought, hey, somebody's, at least my email got somewhere.
Right.
And so then I waited, and the wait time now is about 12 to 18 weeks to hear back from an agent. And so I waited around till June of last year, and I sent out another batch of maybe 8 to 10 queries, and I think I might have heard back from 4 again. And at that point, it was pretty, it's kind of depressing. You're just like, oh man, I'm going to be 100 years old before anybody sees this thing. And so in October of last year, my editor said, why don't you look into self-publishing? And I'm like, well, I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know you could do that. But then they put me in touch with a couple websites, and they said, here, check these out. And I went through and I found one I liked, and I've been working with them ever since. And
which one? What do you like? Which one did you?
I ended up going with Book Baby, and so we actually have right now we have the ebook for sale as well as the paperback, and you can get those. They're on pre-sale on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, all the big names, and then they're also on sale at the Book Baby site.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, they're on sale there right now, and then they will be. The actual launch date is set for the 17th, which is next Wednesday.
Actually, it's the day this podcast is going to be released.
Yeah, and so that's going to work
congratulations.
out great.
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And so about, I think it was probably about 10 days ago on a Saturday, we started kind of launching the pre-sale campaign, and I think that took off pretty well. I think I'm just guessing that we probably have maybe 200 or 300 sales so far.
So what did you do to get those? How did you launch it?
I just put first of all, I set up a Facebook site for my pen name RSDs, and then on my regular Rick D's Facebook, I sent out a message. I kind of blasted it out there to everybody I knew, and then just got responses that way. And at first, I think that first week, I offered a $25 Amazon gift card for anybody that would go to my website. So I also have a website that has a lot of information on the book and has some pictures and actually has a map of where the story takes place and everything like
idea.
that. Yeah, and so I had people go there and sign up, and whoever would sign up there, they were eligible for the gift card, and so that was the first thing I did. And then this last week, I gave away a signed copy of the book. Which I think we had the drawing on, Friday it was on Cinco de Mayo, because it was a Cinco de Mayo special. So we kind of did that. And so now we have about another week or so until the launch date. And I'm thinking of running another one this weekend for a couple giveaways.
Oh, that's a good idea. So
did Book Baby help you with all this marketing, or was this on your own?
Most of it's on my own, but Book Baby has, they send out, they have webinars, and they have a lot of articles where they send you some really good information that, a lot of things that I didn't know. I've learned a ton about marketing in the last 2 or 3 months just by, reading online, and especially through Book Baby. They've, supplied a lot of that information.
And so what was it that you liked about Book Baby since you shopped around and you came to...
I don't know. I just like the way that they kind of, being an independent author, they let you, you have a lot more control, I think, than you do with a publisher. And they let me design the cover, which one of the, I don't know if you guys have seen the cover photo, but the background cover photo is actually a photograph that I took of the place, of the fishing hole where the opening scene takes place.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, and so they kind of let me have some control over that, and it was kind of fun to work with them. And I just reading through what they had to offer, I thought it was a pretty good fit for what for my budget and for what I like to do, what I wanted to do, and what I had in mind. So I think it worked out pretty well so far.
Great, that's good to hear. And what are your plans in the future for promoting the books?
Well, I've like I said, I've watched a couple webinars online, and I've learned a lot about Amazon targeting certain authors. Like, you can connect with other authors that write in the same genre as you do, and you can place ads on. Like, for instance, when you go to, let's say, Carl Hiaasen, who I think writes a lot. I don't know if you've ever read any of his stuff, but he writes kind of a similar book to what I write. And so what I can do is kind of target his page. And when you go to his page on Amazon, you know how you always see a bunch of little little icons on the, like, also bought these, or you might be interested in these. So you can target certain other authors that write in your genre, and hopefully you catch the eye of other readers. And so that's one thing I'm going to start probably doing next week once the book launches. I also probably will do more, Facebooking things. Like I said, I'm a teacher, and so right now, we're kind of bogged down in finals week. Yes. and getting everything ready for graduation. And so once we hit June, it'll be a lot easier for me anyways to spend a lot more time, marketing this. And then I also have started writing a second book that has similar, it has some of the same characters as this one. So I'm excited to get into that. Right now, it's just there's too much going on to really focus on writing. I can't, I've listened to other authors where, they work all day and then they go home and write at night, and I just can't do that. I need a clear head.
Right.
And for me, that doesn't come until summertime.
Well, what was your writing process like when you wrote the book?
Originally, when I started way back in 2003, I just started writing these stories. I think it was during the school year, actually. And then when I really started to get serious, though, was not until the summer, because that's when I could just, I would get up, I would just wake up about, 4:30 or 5 in the morning and then write for a few hours. And it seemed like my head was clear then. And you don't have a bunch of things complicating it. By mid-afternoon, there's too many other things going on where it's like, I can't think anymore. I need to take a break from this. And so that's when I think I write best is, either early in the morning, or I'll stay up, late at night, maybe go from, say, 11 o'clock until 2 or 3 in the morning. And the fun thing is, for me at least, and I don't know if it's like that for everybody, but once I start writing, you just kind of get in a groove where you just keep going, and you look up and hear 4 hours have elapsed, and it's like, wow, where'd that time go? And so that's kind of how it works with me. But summertime's best for me because my schedule is a lot more flexible. I don't have to get up at 6:30 and go to work in the morning, and right. It's a lot easier to do when you stay up till 3 in the morning.
So it seems like you had some guidance along the way, but at some point, did you ever just feel so overwhelmed, or was it when your mentor said that you had to cut back on this?
Yeah. That's a great question, and it was at that point. Like I said, and he was absolutely right. I had written a lot of these. It seemed like they were a lot of little short stories that I had kind of, some of them fit along the main storyline, and some of them didn't. And then he finally said, "Okay, you have to come up with a main storyline that everything has to tie into." And it really made me think. And so I had to sit down and come up with an idea of, of what was that backbone going to be that everything kind of hooked into. And it turned out to be this love story between Ronnie and Mary Ellen, the two characters in the book, two of the main characters that, end up, falling in love, I guess you would say, that summer. And once I got that done, then it was a little bit easier to kind of tie everything in. But I did have to weed out a lot of stuff, and like I said, that's kind of tough after you spend hours and hours writing something. And then you got to go back, and it's like, oh man, I got to throw this stuff away. But, you don't always, it's somewhere on my computer, so that I'm trying to hope that I can tie it into this next book somehow. Some of it will fit in there, some of it won't. But it's just, that's the kind of process, I guess. But it was tough hearing that, that I had to cut that. And like I said, 10 years ago when I started writing this, the chances of getting noticed in an agent's slush pile was pretty slim. I think someone told me the other day it's like 2 out of every 1,000 manuscripts.
Wow.
And I thought, man, there's no way that, I'm 53 years old, and I thought I'm going to be 120 before anybody picks one of these up. And I thought, I can't wait that long. And so when my editors told me about self-publishing, that was really exciting news. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't even realize you could do that. So, it's a kind of an exciting time to be an indie author because it is tough to get to crack into that publishing world.
Was there one person from Book Baby who led you on this process, or were you on your own and you just emailed them when you had questions?
No, you start out, and I don't remember the exact title of their people, but you start out, talking to one person with, I guess it was my manuscript. So the first thing I wanted to do was get my manuscript cleared out with those guys. And so I sent that in. And then after reading through, I had read through my entire manuscript. I don't know, the entire manuscript probably 7 or 8 times, and I would still find errors in there. And I was like, oh, come on, because, what I've learned is that your eyes see what your brain wants it to see. And so I had a couple other people read it, even on top of my editors, and I would go back and make edits. And so once I got the manuscript nailed down, then they kind of passed me on to another person in their department who was designing the cover. So I would work with that person for a couple weeks until we got the cover done. And then once we got the manuscript done and the cover done, then they have people that work with. They have to format it for an ebook, and so that's an entirely different operation too. But and then once you get there, then they have another person that works in distribution, and so you're talking to that person. So there's a couple different people that I talked to along the line, but it was always easy to get a hold of them. I could always call one of them, or I could always, email one of them, and they would put me in touch with the proper person.
Right.
Not really having known these people, it's hard to visualize who you're talking to and stuff. So, but they were always good about it, and they were pretty quick. I just ordered. Originally I ordered 25 paperback books, and I got that shipment in about a month ago, and I think I've given away probably. Maybe 15 or 20 of those as advanced reader copies, to friends of mine and, special people like that. And then I just ordered another batch here about 2 days ago. And I think it takes about 10 days for them now to get them all sent here and everything. So, I'll have them for this, for this next push here, so I can sell those out of the back of my van or whatever I want to do.
So you mentioned the ebook. Did they send you what the ebook would look like? So you had to sign off on the layout of the ebook? Exactly.
That's what they do. They send you a PDF file, a Mobi file, and EPUB file. And so that'll work on the Kindle, on the Nook, and on the iPads. And I guess there's probably some other readers out there too. And since I have an iPad, I just opened it up on my iPad, and then you can read through it. And before you sign off on it, you can go back. And there were a couple things that I had noticed that, maybe just some spacing or some issues like that I had to go back and just say, okay, on page 237, we need to indent this paragraph or whatever. So before they put it in stone, you get to go back through and kind of preview everything. And then you do the same thing with the paperback too. They don't really send you a paperback, but they send you a PDF file that you open in. I think it's like Adobe Acrobat or something. And you read it on there, and then you can you can see how the spacing looks and how all that works. And that was pretty it's pretty surreal when you see that with the cover and everything. And it's like you're and it's like you're it is like that. And it's like you're reading a real book on your iPad, and then it's like the day when the box of books arrives, and you open them up and you hold it for the first time, and it's like, wow, that was really weird.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I'd been reading the electronic version for I don't know how many years, and all of a sudden now it's in print, and it's just, it's kind of surreal. It's pretty cool, cool experience.
I bet. And what about your students? Do the students at your school know you're writing this book?
Yeah, they do. Well, yeah, I have a group of seniors in physics class that somehow they got wind of it, and they've been, and I wasn't the one that brought it up. Somehow somebody saw it on Facebook. You know how that goes.
Yes.
And so I know some of them have purchased the book, and some of them have. They've asked me about it quite a bit. So. We'll see how that goes. That's kind of why I wanted to release it at the end of the school year, just so I wouldn't have to, deal with, a hassle of all that. And, but so it's worked out really well, though. Everybody's been really positive about it, and it's been a good experience.
But maybe you'll motivate one of them to write a book,
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking.
Mr. D's did it. I'm going to go do it,
Well, and that's a good point, and hopefully some of them will, read it and maybe think, if he can do it, maybe I can do it too. And, and I'd really like to kind of help them along that path and say, listen, this is how I did it, at least how I self-publish. Maybe you're lucky enough to get picked up by a publisher, but if not, I can help them out and show them the ropes. So I've learned a lot in that part of it, the getting to publishing, self-publishing, and then the marketing itself. And I'm really excited about this summer, just learning a little bit more about, this whole process of marketing and how things go. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, great.
Yeah, it seems that a lot of people we've spoken to have said the marketing is quite a feat, and they've learned so much. And they said we need to speak about that in more length about how to market the book. So there's so many different ways that you can approach it, and you can use Facebook and Twitter, and you can use targeted ads and everything like that. And there's so much information online too. There's a lot of good webinars. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to share their knowledge with you, and that's pretty cool. That's really cool.
Right. Rick, I got to ask you about your name, Rick Dees. Now, there's another famous Rick Dees, the DJ. Was it difficult writing the book with that name, or how did the RS come along?
That's a good question. And one of the things that I've learned about in all this research on marketing was that you got to have your own brand, and so Rick Dees is already taken by the Disco Duck guy, and I think I told you guys this, but once in a while I'll put on the Disco Duck video in front of my class and tell them that was me back in the 70s wearing some groovy threads and dancing. And I think some of them actually believed me, but anyways, so that's kind of that's the main reason that I'm writing under RSDs. Right. Rick Dees, if you go to Google and type in Rick Dees, all you see is his stuff for pages and pages. And he beat me to the punch there. So if you go to RSDs, though, then I think you start seeing my stuff. And it was kind of interesting because I played around with that for a long time. I wasn't sure what pen name I wanted to write under. I knew I wasn't going to do Rick Dees because he kind of had dibs on that. And I know Dave Barry, he's a humor writer, and his Twitter handle is Ray Adverb, which was an anagram of his name. So I went to this anagram finder one day and I typed in Richard Scott Dees, which was my real name, and they came up with like 2,500 different names, and some of them were pretty humorous that you probably wouldn't want that to be your pen name. but I ended up, and I picked one for a while, and I thought, oh no, I just couldn't see someone coming up to me like at a book signing and calling me by a name other than what my name was, and I thought I would feel kind of uncomfortable. So anyways, hopefully everybody still calls me Rick, but I'm publishing this under RSDs just for that purpose.
Well, very cool. Thanks for explaining that. Before we wrap up, do you have any advice for fellow authors, people who are writing books?
I would just say, keep at it and just believe in your dream, because you really can get a book published in this day and age. And like I said, it's really difficult, I think, if you play that waiting game where you send 8 or 10 query letters in, to the agents in New York, and and wait 12 to 18 weeks to hear back, maybe from some of them, possibly not from anybody, and and it's easy to get frustrated in that respect. And I think if you just keep chasing that dream and know that you can do it, and take the chance, and that's one thing I've always thought about with this book. I wasn't sure, when I made the commitment to self-publish, it was like, what happens if this thing turns out to be big and, it could really change my life. And, that's the chance I was willing to take, I guess. Okay. And if you don't take that chance, you'll never know. And I didn't want to, be 70 or 80 years old and regret that and look back and say, man, I should have done this. And so, you got to take that leap of faith and hope for the best. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So, I'll let you guys know in a few months if this one works.
Yeah, we want to hear.
Yeah, and good for you for taking the chance.
Yeah, because it is scary. It's very scary.
Yeah, it is, but it's also exciting, and you never know. Right. You never know what's going to happen.
Okay, and then one last question: how can our listeners get in touch with you if they'd like to contact you?
Well, you can go to my website at rsds.com. Or check me out on Facebook at RSDs, not Rick Dees, the DJ.
And we'll have that in the show notes. Right now.
Yep, we'll add that in the show notes.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, Rick. And
thanks, guys. This was a lot of fun. I really had a good time.
Oh, good.
I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. And thanks for listening to the Author Inside You podcast. And until next time,
right on.
thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.